The linguist and diplomat Sir John Browning wrote the following about the Magyar, as the Hun language, in 1830. The Hungarian language goes far back. It developed in a very peculiar manner, and its structure reaches back to times when most of the now spoken European languages did not even exist. It is a language which develops steadily and firmly in itself, and in which there are logic and mathematics with the adaptability and malleability of strength and chords. The Englishman should be proud that his language indicates an epic of human history. One can show forth its origin, and alien layers can be distinguished in it, which gathered together during the contacts with different nations. Whereas the Hungarian language is like a rubble stone consisting of only one piece on which the storms of time left not a scratch. It is not a calendar that adjusts to the changes of the ages. It needs no one. It doesn't borrow, does not buck steering, and doesn't give or take from anyone. This language is the oldest and most glorious monument of national sovereignty and mental independence. What scholars cannot solve, they ignore. In philology, it's the same way as in archaeology. The floors of the old Egyptian temples, which were made out of only one rock, cannot be explained. No one knows where they came from or from which mountain the wondrous mass was taken. How they were transported and lifted to the top of the temples. The geniusness of the Hungarian language is a phenomenon much more wondrous than this. He who will solve that will analyze a divine secret, the first thesis of which, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now you have to know that there is only a few languages, as the Hungarian language, in which the amount of words exceed 1,000,000. And you believe it or not, it is to be known that Hungarian language contains approximately between 1.5 to 2 million words, which is not only outstanding, but it is a mystery how come that the rest of the languages of this planet do not even come close to that number. Two languages flourished in the ancient East. One, Sumerian, originated north of the Tigris and Euphrates basin, coming to full bloom in Semur, or other known as Sumer or Sumir, spreading southward then westward to the Mediterranean. The other was ancient Egyptian. Both are believed to be the world's oldest languages. These languages matched exactly the territories where Hungar or Magyar people represented the culture-bearing population. There is no historical evidence that the languages were actually called Sumerian or Egyptian by the indigenous cultures or record keepers of the times. These names were adopted by scholars of the 19th century AD, not as names for the people or their languages, but only as geographical markers. Sumerian. The texts we call Sumerian were written in pictographs for older texts and cuneiform writing for younger texts. Scholars have hardly touched the pictographs. Few, if any, have been read. The reason for this is that they can only yield their meaning and sound values and in accordance with the real Sumerian language, namely Magyar, Hungarian. Current views on the Sumerian language are based on the cuneiform texts. Cuneiform signs usually mark only the consonants, which may be read without knowing the real Sumerian language, but neither exposes the nouns or nor how to break the text into words. According to the results of independent archaeology, history, and philology, the Scythians enters the Carpathian Basin from 130 BC, the Huns from 361 AD, and the Avars from 586 AD. According to their common myths, all three people originate from Mesopotamia. Thus, from the Sumerians who started to flee their homeland since the 19th century BC, when the Babylonians, Kassites, Assyrians, and other people attacked the Euphrates-Tigris area. According to archaeological research from the second part of the 19th century, the Transylvanian Tordos culture shows striking parallels to the Sumerian Uruk-Varka IV and Jemdet or Yemdet Nasr cultures and dates from the 6th millennium BC, hence about 2 millennia before the Sumerian cultures. We thus have to conclude that the first founders of the first high culture on earth, the Sumerians, originated in Transylvania, and second, that Sumerians emigrated in several waves back to the Carpathian Basin. From these facts, and not from nationalistic reasons, the Hungarian continuity theory, HCT, can be formulated as follows. The origins of the Hungarians can be traced back to the ancient Mesopotamia through the Sumerian, Scythian, Hun, Avar, Magyar ethno-linguistic continuity, which together with the evidence of the archaeological artifacts of Sumerian origin found in the Carpathian Basin, indicates that the ancestors of the Hungarians were the first permanent settlers of the Carpathian Basin. This theory was stated by Károly Dombi. The continuity of the Hungarian and their ancestors of the Carpathian Basin was also proved anthropologically by the late Professor Gruves Krantz in 1988, yet without recurring to the Sumerian origin of the people concerned. Hunnic Hungarian etymology word list based on the additions of the Isfahan Codex Márcsa and Ivrepet. Egyptian texts are also used simplified pictures, developing later a simplified form of lettering called hieroglyphs made from the pictures. These too marked only the consonants. Vowels have to be added according to the spirit of the language. The spirit of the language. Egyptologists read only the newer hieroglyph texts, but they are unable to deduce with certainty the nature of the accompanying vowels or how the texts should be broken into words. Hard and soft consonants were frequently represented with the same sign, so there are considerable possibilities for errors in transcribing the texts into modern alphabets. Either scholars never think of employing the Hungarian alphabet or the Habsburg factor is still prevalent. Yet, basing translation on the English spelling system, how can they mark the Hungarian gy, ty, or y sounds which have a firmly established spelling system in Hungarian? The same word or name is translated according to the nationality of the translator, as in the case of the Muger ruins in the city of Ur just in case you have to know. Ur means Lord. Or in other Hungar or Magyar names. A scholar can believe he knows the pronunciation, but cannot find in his alphabet the symbol for the perceived sound. So he may use a symbol of, say, the Italian alphabet. What might ensue from this same text if, say, a German scholar translates according to the German alphabet? The foremost prerequisite for attaining the proper sounds and translation of ancient scripts is familiar with the language and its rules of pronunciation. Non-Hungarian speaking researchers lack the magic language, Magyar, key to unlock the secret. Oh, that's so true. They resort to replacement keys. Mesopotamian Sumerian is translated with the help of Persian, Assyrian, and most of all, Hebrew. Egyptian is translated with the help of the Coptic and Greek languages. Consequently, words transliterated from Sumerian and Egyptian may lack vowels at critical points or have vowels introduced unnecessarily. The resulting transcription is a distortion of the original. Reminds you of something, guys? Bible in Sumerian and in Egyptian. The errors in the translation process understandably evolve a language that does not resemble any known language, truly a language without relatives. The uncertain sound values of the Sumerian and Egyptian languages and incorrect transliteration of original characteristics were noted by Orientalist Professor Lawrence Austin. Vadel, who reproached linguists for basing the transcriptions of Mesopotamian Sumerian texts on the Assyrian language, these scholars, say Vadel, begin their work laden with false racial and religious theories and do not have a key to the sound values of personal names which we inherited with Sumerian signs that had several sound values. The great French Egyptologist Maspero laments, "It is our endeavor that we attempt the pronunciation of the Egyptian words, but it may lead only to marginal results, because we never know with sufficient certainty how they sounded. Our only resource is that we establish what sound values some of the words had in Greek times, as far as this is possible." The general pronunciation of Egyptian names in our days is not so much Egyptian, but Egyptologian, in other words, pronunciation according to Egyptologists. Since in hieroglyphic writing only the consonants and not the vowels are indicated, our reading of Egyptian names is only a compromise, and we do not pretend that our form of transcription renders the names as they pronounced. This is taken from Tutankhamun Treasures, Montreal, 1964, page 4. In certain instances, it is difficult to read the written text well and find its true meaning even with knowledge of the rules of this writing and reading and use of the only good key, the Hungarian language, in establishing the sound values. We are dealing with the spiritual heritage of a world of 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. The working of minds then was different, a difficult that can only be bridged if we become familiar with the belief systems of the ages before Christ.